Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. This is part 2 of an interview we started last week. If you haven't already, we encourage you to go back and listen to part 1, and we're going to take off from where we left off. So can you give me some examples of things that your team implemented that allowed them to do double the work in half the time? Are there any specific changes? And, again, I realize it's the process that you're focused on. But when you do that, how if we're putting things in boxes, how do we make that better? Like, that seems like such a basic process and kind of one that would be hard to improve on by that much.
Yeah, there's some efficiency things like we're using upright freezers for storage. And when you have meat stuffed in an upright freezer, packages tend to fall out, which damages packages, damages morale because nobody likes dropping the bacon. And it's just annoying.
They have to bend over and pick it up.
Yes.
So they're going like, especially like bacon or something that's flat, that slides easy.
Yeah.
They're going, this is an issue. So we call them meat dams. We just cut
plywood, rip plywood.
6-inch plywoods, screwed them to the shelves so there's backstops in there.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So that you're not pulling out 3 and getting 7 and then having to put 4 back while bending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there with the freezer, right? The bowling ball roast that comes out on your toe or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maps for where the inventory is. So if you've got to restock ground beef, where to go find the next box so that you're pulling the oldest inventory for, first in, first out kind of deal.
Yeah. Freezer maps. We had an area that was well compacted gravel, but they had to roll a cart across it. And it was not easy to do. We built a nice step out there.
Mm-hmm.
We put a roof over a pad that we had so that whatever the weather's doing, everything's covered. It's fine. A lot of them were very basic mechanical things. We had a variety of bins that they would pull orders in. They had one style they liked the best. We, tripled our inventory of those bins. They were the easiest ones. They had handles. They would hold the orders the best and got rid of the versions that weren't as popular, that didn't work as well.
Yeah, we do a combination of fulfillment styles. So we have some bundles of meats that people order that are like a prepackaged, hey, buy this and get a discount. And then folks can add things a la carte. Figured out it's a lot easier if when we pack, we focus on the bundles first. Let's get those done on a Friday. Then we can fulfill a la carte orders. Just some like ways to help us focus on one thing at a time instead of doing 10 things at once. And that's all been team driven.
Yeah. And we went from 5-digit volume of packages a year to into 6 digits. And we've always operated error free. So our systems worked, but what worked at one volume did not work at all at the next big step up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been able to maintain our quality control. In other words, errors that reach the customer, we've held
that to a standard.
Yeah, we can count those on probably one hand, but just say 2 hands for the whole year. It just does not happen. And we've been able to maintain that quality control. We also really drilled down on SOPs for each position.
Mm-hmm.
You could walk in, John, the first day, and if you would go to the clipboard and read the SOP, you could be productive the first day on the job, walking in not knowing anything. Mm-hmm. So we really spent time developing those SOPs. Our people did. We didn't do it. They did.
So I'm curious, these all sound like relatively cheap, fairly small 1% type improvements. Screwing a piece of plywood onto the front of a freezer shelf, total cost like $5 and probably took 25 minutes to do or
right.
whatever. Yeah. Okay. So simple and easy.
Very simple,
very simple,
easy.
Very easy.
So easy and so simple, you just might miss it.
Yeah, right. But this is not a huge expensive thing where we wind up making, not to say that you couldn't make big changes and that sort of thing, but we haven't implemented some sort of automated warehouse with robots and that sort of thing.
No.
We are just being better at the very specific things we do.
Yeah. And specifically what we're being better at is identifying a problem, solving it to completion, getting feedback on how that went from everybody, and then doing it again. And it is that wash, rinse, repeat cycle that builds trust from team members, because it demonstrates impact in their job, in their day-to-day work.
And we're careful to communicate that it takes a little bit of emotional maturity, because it may be the system that you designed that's your pet thing that we're going to do away with and revamp. And there's a little bit of emotional maturity to understand. You communicate to the team that we're pursuing excellence. And this is not about the person. If somebody's not getting their job done, we're looking at the system. Are they not trained well enough? Is there something making the process difficult that we can eliminate? It's not about the person. We assume everybody here is sincere, wants to do their job good, is really dedicated to
doing it right.
Doing it right. So if we're not getting it done somehow, we are continually looking at the system. Where's our system falling down?
Yeah, love it. Okay, very good. I don't meet anybody that says they have enough good what-be meetings. Most of us don't spend enough time working on the business. At ranching.fyi, we've developed the Meet Right course to help you be effective with daily meetings, weekly meetings, and quarterly and annual strategic meetings. Look up ranching.fyi, Meet Right. So let's now jump back. You were talking about how we were fulfilling, we had people that were frustrated because they were overwhelmed, overworked. Then we got back to a much more reasonable schedule. Let's talk more about the impacts. How has this impacted your lives as the owners of the business?
Yeah, that's great. Probably one of our best examples of that would be just sheer vacation days, huh?
Yeah, we started before this process. We were the traditional ag operation where we hadn't been anywhere for a long time, years, a formal vacation of any kind. And I may go to Denver and see my dad or something like that for a day or two, but we were never off the ranch at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just use this year, for instance. We've been gone. Eileen's been gone 21 days. I've been gone 31. And 21 of those days, have both been gone.
Yeah.
So,
and just for the record, we're recording this in June, so we're about halfway through the year. So on track for a whole bunch of days gone if you've got EL meetings and other things that you're heading to.
So that's a combination of
vacation and
continuing education and vacation. A week ski trip, an extended wedding jaunt.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe another day on the podcast we'll get you to recite your poem.
That was nice. That went well. Another thing you kind of touched on, while we're gone, our phones are not ringing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And our production is maintained, our error-free is maintained, our systems are working.
Yeah, love it.
Very, so we can be gone with peace of mind and without interruption. And
we can afford that to our people too. When they take time off, it's like, we're set up so that I don't have to reach out and ask you, where is this XYZ?
Yep.
What happened to that? It goes both ways.
Yeah. Everybody gets, when they're off, they're off.
Yeah. Take a break, take rest.
Love it. Yep. Okay. Very, very good. If you were to go back and do this again, what would you do differently?
Start it sooner.
Well, it's a process of a step forward, a step back, like just continually improving, like you said, 1% or 2% on everything all at once. There's been a few big changes, but it is that paradigm shift in our head that really requires management to give up a lot of control, because you're giving everybody a voice. The benefits of that far exceed. I can remember in the early stages talking to our mentor, the guy that turned us onto it, and him asking me, how's it going? And I'm going, it's making me crazy. I'm giving up control everywhere. And he starts laughing and says, every CEO in the country that's engaged in this is having the same problem. That's just common. You have to get used to giving up that control.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is it's little tiny steps. If you realize that you don't want to do that, or that's too far, or they're not ready for it, you back right back up.
Love it.
Yeah. And I would say for us too, the other thing we would do different is when we get off track, because you will, is to go back to basics. We can look back at our completed logs, our backlog that's been checked off. And there's been periods where we slowed down, and you can see it. It's just the seasonality of, hey, we got off track. We stopped focusing. We got distracted by a big project. And when we finished that big project, we didn't have our backlog in place to pick up the next thing. And so it's just that go back to basics, because you will take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And when you take that step back, it's go back to basics.
Yep.
Yeah, this doesn't make your business challenges go away.
Mm-mm.
It just gives you a system to deal with them. We have the same issues in a lot of ways we've always had with personnel and people leaving and kind of thing.
Once fulfillment improves, now we got to get back to doing better advertising to pay for new labor and things like that.
Yeah, that flips back and forth. You either need more sales or you need to
more
improve
people.
your system. Yeah.
John, we still haven't arrived.
I understand. Well, that's pretty cool. I want to just make a quick reference here to a couple of books that could be resources. The first one is, in my mind, The Toyota Way, which is a great book about the Toyota production system. That was where I got introduced to this idea of lean and agile type systems. There's a book called Scrum, and I think the subtitle is Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, which is literally what you guys experienced, and that's by 2 Sutherlands, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sutherland and Sutherland Jr. Are there any other resources you guys recommend? There's another podcast that I love, actually, that was done on NPR many years ago on the NUMMI plant, which is a GM manufacturing plant down in California, where they converted a GM plant to a Toyota plant. And when, I don't know if you remember the Geo Metro and some of these great collaboration cars that came out between Toyota and GM in the 80s or 90s, whenever that was. Anyway, that is if you look up NUMMI NPR, you will find it. I think it's on the This American Life show. It's about an hour-long story about what happened there. That plant, interestingly enough, has since been shut down. GM could not stand success like that, so they had to go a different direction. Are there any others that you guys like? Anything else you've used?
Yeah, there's a book called Team of Teams by General Stanley McChrystal, and that helped me tie into the Scrum.
The art of doing half the work.
The art of doing half the work in half the time, twice the work in half the time. That tied that in pretty good with me.
Yeah,
and
excellent.
It also, really kind of gives you permission to fail back a little bit. You could see the struggle he had, where trying to get everybody enrolled, so you understand that this isn't a magic pill, but it is a process. But you just keep working the process, and it will start pulling everybody into line and pulling together.
Good. You've used this in different parts of your operation. Is this something that has broad application, or is it pretty much, if I don't have a direct-to-consumer business, I don't need to worry about implementing this?
We've used it across the board. I'll use it individually. I'll use these techniques if I'm shopping insurance or if I'm dealing with the bank, getting ready for a presentation. So I've used it in the C-suite, sitting here by myself on my desk, that those processes clear down to like our maintenance. I don't know that I've ever been on a ranch with no deferred maintenance, and we have one. So
doesn't exist. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Some very mechanical things.
Production, we've done improved watering systems for the animals. Like any project you have this is completely applicable.
Yeah, we've basically almost eliminated maybe 2 man days a week with our watering systems using this. We attacked it, and it's called swarming it, when everybody's talent descends on an issue.
Yep.
And we've brought team effort to focus and made our lives totally simpler on the watering front.
Yeah. And again, the emphasis is on creating minimal viable products. So something small that is like a practice step into what can we produce that we can test out, as opposed to waterfall planning, where you create this big, long, elaborate plan that's going to be weeks or months before anything goes into effect. And then you've spent all this time and resources creating something that may or may not work.
Yeah,
love it. Okay, sounds good. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? This has been great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being willing to dive into this.
No, we appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, because we know that it can really be impactful for any organization that sincerely applies it.
Yeah, very good. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's good to visit with you guys. Again, it's Stan and Eileen from Ramstead Ranch up in Washington. You guys have a website. It is, I believe,
It is ramsteadranch.com.
Yeah. Okay, great. Pretty easy to find.
Pretty easy. And we're on social media too as Ramstead Ranch.
You are all over social media, yes. Selling meat. So,
yep.
Very good. Awesome. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you again for joining me, and look forward to talking soon.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
You bet. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.